Welcome back to SoccerX HQ here in London, our Digital Transformation Day in association with our friends at WSC Sports. Next up for you, a topic brought to you by our friends at Upland, a topic we are all trying to get our heads round, NFTs and how football can make the most out of an opportunity that is literally gripping the world. Ready in the green room are Matt Shapiro, Senior Digital Manager at the United States Soccer Federation, Alberto Marana, Head of Licensing at SoRare, Dirk Luth, CEO and founder of Upland, and leading the discussion from The Athletic, it's over to Joey D'Urso.
Hi, yeah, thanks very much for that. NFTs found me, I suppose. My boss said to me a while ago, why don't you write something about non-fungible tokens? So I sort of started out deeply baffled and then hopefully finished somewhat less baffled. An article which was entitled The Future of Football or a Massive Con. This is huge, booming industry. There's loads of excitement about it. There's also a bit of skepticism, cynicism even in some quarters, but it's clearly a big deal. Lots of people are very excited about NFTs. A digital object, a thing which you can't hold with your hands, but you possess and you can have for yourself, you can buy and you can sell. And we've got three brilliant people to talk about that, who Rob just mentioned. And first up, we've got Matt Shapiro, who's a digital manager at the United States Soccer Federation, who are yet to launch an NFT program yet, but they're exploring avenues, looking at enhancing the match day experience, I believe, similar to esports, potentially offering NFTs as part of the tickets. Matt, so can you tell me a bit more about what is the US looking at the moment in terms of NFTs? Why is it exciting for you? And why have you not quite made the leap just yet?
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Joey, and thanks again, everybody, for having us on. The Soccer Federation is really taking a measured approach to trying to come up with or figure out really a long-term plan for NFTs. I think, as the big wave kind of like took over, and really a lot of the media attention this year with NBA Top Shot showing massive success, we're really looking at the space as longer than like a couple year strategy or within a year strategy, and really want to partner or build something that is fan facing, because I think a lot of the current efforts are really native to kind of like the existing crypto community, which is very small and potentially really lucrative. But I think where it really gets interesting is as you make these really like commercial grade, fan first experiences. And so that's kind of where US soccer is right now, trying to find something that we think works for the fans and everyone, and not just kind of something for the small community.
And when you think about this, are you targeting the fans who have the tattoo, have the shirt, are there already, or are you thinking about expanding the fan base to people who maybe aren't as dedicated yet?
Yeah, we see it twofold. The first one, we think we can reward the diehards, the people that are already in there, and bring some of them into the ecosystem that maybe haven't experimented with NFTs. On the flip side, I think it's a great avenue to bring in net new fans and people that maybe don't have the knowledge and interest in the national teams, but create some sort of experience that incentivizes people to participate, to tune in, to learn a little bit more. And so, Joey, I'd say it's both those things. It's not just the diehards; it's also bringing people in.
And what is this real world, real game integration? Someone goes to a match and somehow an NFT will be involved in that. Could you explain about?
Yeah, sure. So I think like long term, and again, this is going to be a process. I think long term, you're going to see blockchain ticketing and tickets that are NFTs themselves really make a lot of sense. And I think when that's established, it becomes a lot easier to also send automatically an additional NFT with that, because inherently everybody would have an address that you could then send an NFT to. So it's going to be interesting to see how the space evolves around the NFT ticketing space. But I think there is an opportunity for, even maybe before that's all settled with the venues, to be able to offer an experience where people that go into a game are able to receive an NFT through some sort of airdrop or something like that. And thinking that can enhance the overall match day experience and kind of create more interest and value in attending a game.
And where would the NFT be sort of carried? Would it be on their mobile phone, I presume? How would it exist? In what format would it be sent to them in an email or in some bespoke app?
Yeah, I think that's part of the challenge right now. And if you look at what Top Shot did with its Flow blockchain, they created really kind of a centralized version of of an NFT type experience, where just by creating an account, it's very easy to give a user that asset because they don't have to go through the process of creating their own wallet on a network like Ethereum would. And so to answer your question, I don't think it's necessarily been fully figured out yet, what the best solution is to do that. I think for traditional fans, it's got to be as easy as possible. It can't be, go to a website to buy Ether, then create a wallet, send it there. Not to say that that's not the future and not the direction that US soccer or the industry should be trying to move people to. But it seems that there's this moment right now where some of these systems like Flow and like Top Shot are able to kind of capture it by creating an experience where it's as simple as creating an account. And so, for example, we have a loyalty program called US Soccer Insiders. In a blue sky type thing, it would be really easy and convenient if we could just automatically give that NFT to the insider. And then when they open up our app, it's right there. They open up the website, it's right there. So I think the technical answer to your question is that the asset should go to an address that is owned by the fan, ideally. And then where that manifests itself is like part of how you you put the program together. So I think there should be a component in your app, a component on the website. And there's some other players in the space, even on the panel, that are working and doing similar things like that, creating experiences around it. And we think that's really what makes the NFTs have value long term, is if there's some sort of like experiential component to it, some sort of way you can show it off in your social circle in some way.
Thanks a lot, Matt. I'm just thinking that for the benefit of some of the audience, people might not really know what Top Shot is. But obviously, as an American, you're very well placed to talk about it. My understanding is that NBA Top Shot is a NFT marketplace, is by a company called Dapper Labs, in which you buy and sell very short clips from the NBA, from basketball matches, a dunk or a block or a brilliant piece of play. And this is a big money business. This is, people are buying and selling these NFTs for huge sums. Is that your understanding of Top Shot?
Sure, yeah. So Top Shot was created by Dapper Labs, which also created CryptoKitties, which was one of the first big kind of games on Ethereum. And they realized that the Ethereum network, as it was a couple of years ago, couldn't handle the transactions and the costs to facilitate the game. So what the Dapper team did was they built their own blockchain called Flow, and are now able to create this kind of consumer grade experience where, again, like you were saying, it's related to the NBA, and casual fans can go to their site, create a normal account. Nothing really crypto first. It's almost, you can't even tell that it's pure blockchain, really running on that. And then you can buy a pack, open it, similar to almost like a foot FIFA video game type experience, where you buy a pack and you unpack it and you see what you get. And I think that in the sports world, at least in the United States, has really kind of lit a fire under everybody, because like you mentioned, that they've made a tremendous amount of money and the model has proved incredibly successful. And so, I think like what they're doing is really interesting. But I guess I'm more of like a purist in the NFT sense. And, I really want to create an experience eventually, for US soccer and beyond, that the actual user owns the NFT asset themselves and they have full control over it, which requires a little bit of a different approach. So Top Shot's definitely a model for everybody in the industry, though.
And my understanding is that Top Shot rocketed in value in about March, April time, and then came down quite a lot. Is that correct?
Yeah, there was a big spike, and I think that the general NFT market as a whole, saw this big spike towards the kind of end of February, March. And then there was a larger kind of pullback across these different things. I think what you're seeing is, specifically in Top Shot, as kind of more casual and normal fans started getting awareness and figure out what it was, they started buying it at price points that were, maybe a little bit higher than they should have. But either way, I think like these fluctuations, I think, are just kind of, cyclical type of wave things. I think like the market will expand and contract, and assets that have value on the chains that have value, I think ultimately, will maintain that value over time. And so I don't look too much at that kind of pullback as like an indication that this whole thing is a flash in the pan. I actually think it's just a natural kind of fluctuation in terms of how this whole industry is going to grow.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to point out it's fallen down from the peak, but it's still, the long-term trend is that this has become a big deal. I want to bring in Dirk Luth now, who's CEO of Upland, which started out as a tokenized real-world property metaverse and is now expanding into the world of sport. Dirk, Dirk, you have to explain to me what does that mean? What is a metaverse?
Yeah, I think when you, first of all, thanks, great for having me here. You know, when you hear about NFTs, you know, very often, you know, at the same time, people mention metaverse, and metaverse is what comes, you know, traditionally from the gaming space, you know, like games like Fortnite, Minecraft, and all these are you know, these are all virtual worlds or parallel worlds, and that was also what Upland is about. It's a metaverse where people act in it, right? They do something, and of course they can then play around with NFTs, and that's how all those things come together. Yeah. So should I quickly explain what Upland is about, or
Sure,
then...
yeah, please do.
Yeah. So Upland, so first of all, when we set out and created Upland, we said, you know, we want to go after the mass market, not just the crypto aficionados. And when you play Upland today, it's super easy with iOS and Android app. Also on the web is accessible. You can pay with credit card and PayPal. You don't need to have crypto. Even you can use cryptocurrency to purchase things in our game. And but the idea is...
What are people purchasing?
Yeah, so what people purchase, so when you think about Upland, the way we started out, like roughly after 18 months ago when we launched, is very much like we got inspired by the game Monopoly, and it's based on the real world. So Upland is the Earth's metaverse, what we say. So you know, everything you do, when you go into Upland, you get a quick map application. You can zoom in, and then everything is, you know, based on the actual addresses, and then you can purchase a property. Yeah, so this is basically what, because we set out the infrastructure layer, so people start owning, and all those properties are NFTs in Upland. So we own 234 Post Street in San Francisco, whatever. And currently live for the cities of San Francisco, New York, Chicago, and a couple of other cities. However, we want to expand together now with brands, also with soccer brands, to other global cities around the world. And just to explain, when you look at here, when it says play, earn, connect, so what does it mean, play, earn, connect? These are the three strategic pillars. So when people come into Upland, they purchase a property, and then we gamify it. That means you can purchase multiple properties on the same street, and then you start increasing your income because you start earning a little bit yield on that. You start increasing that income because you completed a collection with the same property types. So that is a collection mechanic, which is also later important for the whole soccer world. But the idea is, you know, you have difficult collections like museums and so on. Then we have scavenger hunts, we have treasure hunts in the app. We also have live events where things are happening. So that's the first pillar, play. The second pillar, and this is all new, what is all about blockchain, means earn. People now will be able to build you know, structures on their properties, like a house, like a mansion, or like a shop. And they will be able to operate those shops. And this is what is new. They will be, they can go and sell NFTs to other players. So it's not us necessarily as the game operator selling those NFTs. It's the players, it's the fans who can go out now and sell certain NFTs to others, and which makes it what is called in in this industry is called play to earn, this model, right? You play a little bit, and then you can actually earn money, and then you actually in our aspect, you can actually sell for fiat currency. Fiat means real money, like US dollars or other currencies, where you can sell those NFTs to other players for that. And then the last pillar is connect. That means people will be able to meet in virtual settings, you know, like a stadium, like a virtual coffee shop, right? And they can gather together. And that's exactly where we say that's where we are changing, you know, the way NFTs are handled. We want to provide an experience for players, right? So right now we sold 1 million NFTs so far, and, you know, we're one of the largest metaverses out there. We validated everything with the early adopters, right? And you know, that is our approach, and this is what we're going to provide to all the soccer fans. It's gamified, it's contextual, and geolocated. So you can, what I mean with that is when now you can purchase in the future, you can purchase maybe digital goods from a player, like a virtual jersey, you know, which is just, you know, connected to one particular match, right? So it's very unique for the player, and it represents a lot of value for the player. It's contextual, it's happening maybe during a game, right, or before a game, right, and it's geolocated. And I think that is very important for the soccer clubs, because now you can do things actually at the place where the soccer clubs calls their home. That's their stadium. They can have experiences created around there.
I saw recently a sports lawyer wrote a blog about he bought Anfield, the Liverpool stadium in the metaverse. I'm not sure if that was with Upland or not. How many metaverses are there, and why would you buy Anfield in Upland as opposed to another metaverse? Is there a competition between the different metaverses?
Yes, so first of all, there's not going to be questions there. This is metaverses or just one metaverse? That's a big question here, right? And I think there will be multiple metaverses. So because when you look at it, you have Fortnite in the old world, you have Fortnite and Minecraft, but in the future you will also have others, you know, who have different approaches, right? So but to answer, no, he has not bought it from us because we're not live in the UK yet. So actually, it's the first time I hear it, to be honest. So I don't know who is behind that. But we're actually, Upland's going to map the whole world, right? So it's not just one stadium. And the idea is also that that players can purchase single properties, but the stadiums also, when we work together with the clubs can do things in the stadium. And now, because this is actually the third phase of everything, where we say, you know, with the infrastructure, then the economy, where you can start selling digital goods or assets or NFTs to fans. And then the third one is really the mixed reality, right? What Matt also said is now, you know, you're blurring the world a little bit with the real world. So where you have maybe virtual ticket, you know, this ticket's unique when you were there, right, at the game itself, but you can keep the ticket and it's unique, and you can maybe resell it, or you just can collect it, and have different things you can do with it. Just to give you one concrete example, let's say someone has visited, let's say 10 games in a season, and he collected all the NFT tickets. Now the way we're going to gamify it, now we can take those tickets, merge them together, and then you get a new unique NFT, you know, which is only created maybe 100 times. And now this NFT, you know, which can be maybe a trophy, can be a soccer cleat, or can be maybe even also a private video of a player. There's a lot of things you can do, any digital asset, and this becomes, of course, now value. And then the player, the player in Upland, he can take that, let's say, if it's a virtual trophy, and put it in his virtual house and show it to his, you know, to his friends, or whatever he wants to do with, or create a shop and sell, you know, those NFTs to other players again.
What would you say to someone who said, why would you want a virtual trophy? Why would you want a virtual stadium? Why? Why not get a real one?
So, yeah, I mean, so the virtual stadium, of course, you know, in the real world you can own it, right? But now in the virtual world you can actually own it, and you can, because the digital world gives you so many more possibilities where you're limited in the physical world, right? So you know, to enhance maybe, you know, the experience for the players, what they cannot get in the real world. So that's basically the simple answer for that.
And what might be the sort of concerns for a club if, you know, say Liverpool Stadium was going to be bought by some random person who then knocks it down and builds a block of flats, or, you know, turns it into a car park? Is that possible?
Well, in theory, of course, it's possible, right, to do that. But we as Upland, we want to work with the clubs. Actually, we want to open up cities together with the clubs, and then the clubs can do those kind of things, you know. And then they take over the ownership there.
So you'd see this as a potential revenue generator for clubs?
Oh yeah. There's a huge generator for clubs, because they can sell those. They can define what kind of NFTs they want to have, right? They can have a fan shop in the stadium. They can sell the tickets, the seats one day for each game. You know, there's so many things you can do. I think there's a huge revenue streams potential for the clubs, and very, very, very short term they can start monetizing on that.
Great. We'll come back to you in a second, Doug, but for now I want to introduce Alberto Majorana, who's head of licensing at So Rare, which is the biggest fantasy NFT-based game out there. It's constantly signing up new leagues and teams. It's got big backers, including Antoine Griezmann, Rio Ferdinand. Firstly, Alberto, could you just explain what So Rare is for people who might know?
Hi, Joey. Nice to be here with you, first of all. Yeah, So Rare is basically a kind of combination between NFTs and fantasy football game or soccer game, where basically you can play the fantasy game once you own the NFTs. So the idea was, let's say, came from Nicola and Adrian, the two co-founders, that they had the vision to provide and to develop a superior or better experience, gaming experience to the users using the blockchain. So Rare runs on Ethereum as blockchain, and basically gets all the benefits that the blockchain itself gives us. So first of all, the possibility to create digital scarcity, the possibility to protect the intellectual property of the clubs or the licensors that we have on the platform, and also, of course, the possibility to pay royalties on the secondary market. But Sorare, it's an ecosystem nowadays where there are more than 100.
Could you just explain the term digital scarcity? Because it comes up a lot and it's something really important, I think, to all this, but you'll probably do a better job of explaining than me.
Sure. I mean, digital scarcity nowadays is possible only because of the blockchain technology. So until now, it was not possible to have a scarcity of digital goods. The blockchain let us to reach that kind of objective. So basically, in real terms, or as an example, when we can create digital scarcity in the way that we can issue nowadays a certain amount or a number of NFTs. For example, in our case, we have 3 levels of scarcity for our NFTs, which are called unique cards, which is of course only 1 per player and per season. Super rare cards, which are 10 cards per player per season, and rare cards, which are hundreds. So the blockchain let us to create this kind of scarcity. And basically defining the number of NFTs that we can sell or we can print on the blockchain and put them on the market.
So basically the digital version of the old trading cards, which of course still exist and go for lots of money, but the blockchain technology means you can prove that something is one of a kind.
Exactly.
So yeah, I can't just copy and paste one that someone lists and try and sell it.
Yes, no, you can't, of course, on blockchain, you can't copy and paste because everything is authentic and it can't be tampered. So it's proven on the blockchain and, it's the original one. But the meaning is like, printing on the blockchain. So a certain number of NFTs that you define the number, the quantity, of course. So that's the digital scarcity.
And how do you work with clubs and leagues?
So at the moment we have about...
You have a deal with some of the biggest clubs, right?
Yeah, nowadays we have about 150 clubs signed. They are all officially licensed. We also have deals in place with federations and with leagues in their total, let's say, number of clubs. So yeah, we work basically with all the biggest European clubs, from Real Madrid to Liverpool, from Paris Saint-Germain to Bayern Munich, but not only in Europe, of course. We have also clubs and leagues from Asia and from South America and North America. So we are expanding, of course, worldwide. We call Sorare a global fantasy football game, in the meaning that players or our users, they can play with cards or players from different teams or different clubs. So when you form your team, when you compose your team to take part in the weekly tournaments, you can combine your team with players and cards from different clubs. It means that you can have a player from Liverpool, one from Boca Juniors, one from the Japanese club, and so on and so forth. So there are different, of course, benefits and opportunities for a club or for a licensor to join Sorare. Of course, the first one is to generate revenue. That means that we pay royalties on the sales of the cards representing the club, both on the primary market and on the secondary market. The second opportunity for the club or for the licensor is to get exposure and visibility to a quite international and transversal audience, which is basically our community. So we have a community basically which is made by users and people and fans and gamers from different parts of the world and continents. So at the moment we are selling our cards in more than 130 countries. And of course the profile of those users are quite different. So we have the gamers, we have the football fans, we have the traders, we have the the crypto community, etc. And then the other opportunity is to of course increase their the fan engagement in the sense that the club can join their fans worldwide and using our platform like a kind of media platform, because our users, they spend a lot of time every day playing on Sorare. So the visibility of the club is quite important on the platform. So those are the main benefits, of course, for a club to join our platform.
And some of these cards are exchanging for really large sum of money. Do you think most people are in it for that, in the sort of trading, trying to make money aspect, or just the collecting or is it a combination of the two?
Yeah, I mean, we have, as I said before, we have different kind of users, but the vast majority of them, they play Sorare. They play the fantasy football game, which is what we actually want. We are focused on the long term. We are not here to provide, let's say, a platform for speculating or for trading. So of course there are people that collectors and traders that they buy and sell, but the vast majority of our users, they play quite constantly the game, and it's also proven by the high retention rate that we have for our users, so more than 75% over 3 months. So that demonstrates that the game is quite good and is working very well.
I was doing my own sort of research into this, and I noticed that South Korean goalkeepers a lot of people talking about South Korean goalkeepers. Why is that?
Well, we have the South Korean league, part of our platform of Sorare, so they are our licensor. So we also sell the cards, of course, of all the clubs taking part in that league. I don't know particularly what you are talking about, specifically, but we sell, of course, also that player card.
And how much money would an average Sorare user spend on their collection? Do you have figures for that sort of thing? Obviously, a Kylian Mbappe card going for tens of thousands of dollars, but your average person who doesn't have anywhere near that kind of money, how much will they be spending on the game?
It's very difficult now to tell you an average price, because the price depends on the scarcity level. So if it's a unique card or rare cards and so on, it depends also on the utility of the card in the game. Of course, the more a player plays, the more value gets. So it's very difficult to give you an average of the price. But of course, we have seen the top players like Ronaldo, like Mbappe, and so on. Of course, having their cards sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars or euros. But in general, I mean, also for, let's say, less known or famous players, we see that the prices are quite important. I want to say that we are here to let everybody, let's say, playing our game. So we are not targeting specific, let's say, users or the crypto community and so on. So we want to go mass markets, and that's also the fact that we are letting people to buy the cards both with credit card and with Ethereum, so the cryptocurrency. That's also a fact, proves that we are in that direction. And we are going to
why is it why are these cards purchased with Ethereum currency? I understand the point of the blockchain is to prove artificial scarcity, but why are they purchased with Ethereum rather than US dollars or euros?
Well, it depends on the user, of course. I mean, there are users that they prefer or they are more in crypto, so they prefer to spend and to invest in Ethereum rather than other people that are less less into the blockchain, or they have less knowledge or no knowledge at all. So they can have the possibility to buy the cards with a simple credit card. So that's the difference of the user profile, basically.
And I just want to bring Dirk back in for this issue of which also you have, this issue of kind of a long relationship with an NFT. How do you make sure that someone is actually engaging in it as a product, which is what everyone always says about NFTs, rather than just flipping it for financially?
Well, it's the utility. Sorry, you're talking about it.
Sorry, do you want to say Alberto first and then Dirk?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's important, of course, the utility of the NFT in the game. So you can buy our card, our NFT for collecting, but also you have the possibility to use it in the game, and that's the utility that gives the cards, and that gives a long-term value for the users. So that's very important for us, and gives us the high retention, and gives us the opportunity to stay here for in the long term. And
Dirk, is this something that you thought about?
Yeah, so when I chime in here, so I think it's the same. The keyword is here, utility. So that's actually how we see it, right? We're going beyond really just a drop, right? We're just kind of, it's just transactional, and then of course you get these high prices and so on. We strongly believe, you have to put some sense or some content around the NFT. In our sense, what I mentioned earlier is that people can have a trophy they can take to their virtual home, right? Or or use elsewhere, right? If it's a cleat, right? And maybe one day you can play some soccer yourself with it, in Upland, because everything is virtual. So you have a reason just to do and to keep them. Of course, when you speak about collectors, and I think collector game or every collector application, you always have people who purchase and speculate. But our clear objective is not to do that, because we're gonna also, depends also on the way you price it, right? Of course, in the headlines, you always saw this digital art selling for $60 million or what have you, right? We're more about, that people can purchase a virtual jersey or some virtual memorabilia, right? For $2, $5, $10, right? Maybe there's, of course, if there's a unique goal or something associated to it, then it's a little bit more expensive. But the idea is really to get the mass market into it, and that people are proud and have this experience. Hence, we want actually cultural relevance. We want to extend the whole idea, right? We want to extend the soccer brands into the virtual metaverse, and and that's why we want to help the clubs.
And Matt, is this something that you're considering at the moment? This issue of longevity and utility, and something that goes beyond financial speculation?
100%. I think, especially as you're building experiences for fans first, I think utility is everything. And I think what Alberto and the team are doing at Sorare is really smart. It's beyond just a trading card. It's the cards have stats that then you can use in the fantasy game. And so, I think NFTs with the use cases are far more interesting and have far more potential than some of just the base case stuff that doesn't really have any extension other than, okay, you own this asset and somebody else will want to own it. And so 100% we're thinking in that direction. And I think, where Dirk's going with the metaverse, I think is massive. I think we haven't seen big brands or sports teams play in that space yet. I think brands and teams have been circling that for a while, even before kind of like, real blockchain-based metaverses have existed. There have been some other attempts and starts and stops to kind of create these types of virtual co-watching environments where you can also buy goods. And so to me, it's very clear that the metaverse is the next big thing kind of in this NFT space. And it 100% makes sense that sports teams would not only want, but need to be playing in that space. And again, it's still so nascent. Nobody's really done it right yet. It'll be really fascinating to see who's able to do it right first. But I expect many, many, many teams to get into that metaverse space as it really expands, like you can do with your NFT strategy and universe, and create new experiences from like a digital viewing and perspective. So yeah, we're thinking about that.
And I've got a audience questions here, but just before that, is there any questions that you want to ask each other, or to develop any points that other participants have made? Okay, I've got a question from Lewis, who says, what do we say to those who are still extremely suspect of the financial speculation side of NFTs? Could we see a similar case to that of Football Index? So that's a story which I worked on a lot. It's a UK gambling company which kind of exploded spectacularly, and people had put lots of their money into these virtual shares in footballers that went from having a really high value to having virtually none. So I suppose with NFTs, could people buy these NFTs at a high price, and then overnight the market implodes and it turns to nothing? And Football Index, there are people that put their life savings into it, so it was a real kind of human, very sad story. So what are the safeguards? What is in place to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen with NFTs? So anyone particularly want to pick up on that?
I think that there is some difference here, because of course with the use of the blockchain, what you buy is real yours. So you buy really the ownership of the NFT. Of course, there can be speculation. We are talking about an emerging category, and as any emerging category, there will be some fluctuation in the market, and roller coaster in the price and stuff like that. But I think that Matt mentioned before, or you actually, that the long-term trend is quite positive, and we see the direction. So at least from our side as a Sorare, as I said before, we are not here for the speculation, for the trading. We are here really to provide some good experience to the users with a combination of the fantasy game and the NFTs. and I mean based on the ownership of the cards itself.
And I think sorry, building these types of experiences is what keeps the social relevance, which drives a lot of the value behind these things. I think in general in the space, the vast majority of NFT projects and stuff that's going out right now, are probably not going to be successful in terms of retaining value in the long term. And I think the people that are approaching the space in general as investment vehicles and not otherwise, are, if you're newer to the space, you could definitely get burned in that aspect. But I think there will be projects that do have retain long-term value, and I think specifically in the sports world, it's still applicable. I mean, you look at what's happening in the traditional collectibles market right now in the sports, and the idea of having the first NFTs that U.S. soccer has ever created, and there's going to be long-standing value in the right projects. But to your point, Joey, there's definitely an atmosphere right now where there's a lot of projects that are going to be really doing whatever they can to get your ETH or to get your, and so I think people have to do a little bit of diligence and make sure that they're participating in projects where they do see that there is a vision, there is a long-term play, there is some utility, as we were talking about earlier, to try to make sure that they're investing and buying in the right places.
And something else I'm interested in, just listening to you all, is we've had this kind of divide come up this year between the sort of traditional football fans who might go to matches, who might be rooted in the live 3 miles down from the stadium, this sort of thing, and then we've got lots and lots of fans who live in other countries or don't have that tie to the sort of geography or maybe history of the club, but are fans nevertheless, and no less fans for doing so. Do these sort of digital tokens help bridge that divide, help people who maybe don't live in the same country as their team engage with them? Or is that a sort of tension which you feel, that people who have season tickets are much more skeptical of this than someone who lives on the other side of the world?
Well, maybe I can chime in here. We see one interesting phenomenon in Upland, right? So we have actually, even though we are only live for the US at the moment, but we have players all around the world and purchasing neighborhoods and getting together, like say in San Francisco, because they have a common interest about things. And I think that's a little bit what digital is changing in general. Right, it's not that you really that you have to be in the same place, right? It's more about the mindset, right? I'm a fan of Liverpool, I'm a fan of whatever club, right? And that's what brings me here, and I want to chat with others like-minded people, right? And I think eventually we'll see that these kinds of different groups you just described, Joey, I think they will merge together in the future, right? Because of the digital, because digital just overcomes all the distance barriers and so on. But still, the funny thing is there will be still somehow this association to a place, to the location, right? That's the common interest. That's what drives people together.
I just want to bring Matt and Alberto back in a second, but on this point about spending time in the digital space, with the pandemic easing and lockdowns easing, I'm kind of thinking 6 months ago I might have spent my Saturday in the metaverse, but now the pub's open again, so I'll go there. Is that a factor for you, that people are wanting to spend less time online in their free time maybe than they did 6 months or a year ago?
Well, you have this general, if you look at, TV consumption is clearly going down with the younger generation, and they all spend their time in metaverses these days, right? They actually, but it's not just about playing, they socialize there, right? Kids, they meet in Minecraft and talk at the same time about school and homework or whatever about their friends. And that's exactly what you're going to see also in everywhere else. It's going to, this boundaries, they're going to blur more and more the more easy it gets, and it's also, what we have at Upland, Upland's going to be your companion, like 5-6 years, it's just with you all the time, and you're checking in and then do stuff in the real world. So it's just a blurred thing.
Alberto, is there anything you want to say about this relationship between the more old school fans and the newer ones?
Yeah, I mean, we see, of course, a transition from people to towards the digital, of course. I mean, people nowadays, or young generations, they spend a lot of time online playing and so on. I mean, we also have quite significant metrics about that. I mean, we have more than 1 hour playing time per day per user on our platform, so that's quite significant, and also the retention is quite high. So we see, of course, I mean, from our side, we have, as I said before, a quite diversified audience. So the core age is between 20 and 40 years old, and that's quite understandable. In terms of geography, we have a big chunk of users from the US and from Asia, and the rest, of course, about 20% from the US, 20% from Asia, and the rest from Europe and other countries. So we see, of course, that those numbers are growing, and there are more and more people engaging on digital, and the NFTs. I think it's an additional level that is giving another experience to the users. To engage with their, in this case, with their football clubs, with their footballers, with different kind of games and so on, with the awareness to really owning what they are buying. I think that's a very important thing, because when we're talking before about the investment, why a person should invest 100 euros or 1,000 or whatever to buy an NFT, I think that's very important. The experience, the connection with what you are buying, and knowing that it becomes really yours.
Okay, and Matt, you're from the new world. Do you think that that the US is maybe more open to something like NFTs because it has, not as long footballing history as England or Germany or Spain or Italy?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've actually seen a lot of the European clubs like sign up with Alberto's company and So Rare. I think we've actually seen some of these smaller leagues be a little bit more flexible in terms of, and a little bit more aggressive in terms of how they can get into space. And so, I think it's actually the opposite. And we're seeing the professional sports teams in the United States run a lot of things through their leagues and try to make decisions and bets on it. I think, like going back to NBA Top Shot, that was really what awakened the whole movement on this side. But even before that, you had European soccer teams doing digital trading cards, So Rare, and things like that. So I think the US market's a little bit slower to sort of move to it. One point also on the previous question with kind of like this digital social experience. And I think that's really what these metaverses are creating, and what these games with utility are trying to create, is there's going to be kind of this real like kind of revolution of digital social experience where, you're able, it's not just kind of virtual attendance or something like that. There's a deep-rooted social component of it, and layering on the added ability for fans to actually own assets. And so I think this is the space that we're all playing in right now. And to your question about international fans and, is it the same for the people that are here? I think like Dirk said, all this stuff is kind of merging into one based off of like shared experience and interest. And so there's no reason that you can't do some sort of virtual check-in or attendance where you already have fans of the national team, in our example, all over the world, Americans or non-Americans, giving them some sort of incentive or some sort of way they can participate in the game, whether that's opening an app, which is great for us, and virtually checking in. And if you do that, maybe you get an NFT for something like that. And I think that's, to me, I think the world is flatter than ever. And I think, like Dirk's point, these fans are eventually going to merge in, and you're creating the platform for them to really kind of start doing that.
Thanks. I'm conscious we've only got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything that any of you three want to say that we haven't already said? Imagine someone's watching who'd never heard of an NFT before.
I've got one thing. I think that the chain, like the blockchain that the NFT is ultimately issued and secured by, like really does matter. And I think a lot of the newer people coming into this space don't really consider that or think about it. Because there's a lot of different blockchain options out there right now, especially with the way that the code works. And, a lot of them make sacrifices from a decentralization standpoint. And, to me, I think the whole concept of this NFT movement is that there's asset ownership by the actual users and players. And right now, as kind of these experiences are being built, not all of the infrastructure is kind of like that. So, personally, like I really like, I'm excited about the development of some of the projects on Ethereum, and we'll see what happens in the long run. But the chain that it's behind definitely matters in terms of the value of the asset and the long-term future of the asset.
Yeah, I second that. Maybe the chain doesn't matter. I mean, we're based on the EOS blockchain, but however, we obfuscate everything what's behind it, right? It's, you sign up with an email password. That's all you need in Upland. And, we have lots of transactions per second, which is important technically because the fans expect certain behavior, right, of the application they're working with, right? And unfortunately, blockchain and Ethereum has been a little bit clunky in the past, right, which is really hard. But my last point is to say, I think what is important is that fans actually will expect that you have NFTs, that you're working in with the metaverse, because that's the young fans, how they're growing up. And if you don't provide that, I think you as a club, you're going to fall behind, you know, all the esports league and everything who are going to have those kind of things, right? So that's going to be quite important, you know, to start thinking about these two things, NFTs and metaverses.
Thanks a lot. Dirk. We've just got to wrap it up there. So that was Dirk Luth, CEO of Upland. We've also heard from Alberto Majorana, head of licensing at So Rare, Matt Shapiro, who's digital manager for the US Soccer Federation. This was NFTs. What are they, and how can football get in on it? I really enjoyed that. I found that interesting. I hope you did too. Thanks very much for listening. Back to the studio.